Ma Rainey was a badass in so many ways, from her explicit lesbian lyrics, to her signature gold teeth, to the fact that she was always in control of her own money. And some say the characters she painted in her songs, fearless, partying, sleeping around, and the general bad boy image, have inspired hip-hop as we know it today. Now, trigger warning. Before I go any further, there is some terminology that, while suited to the time, might be offensive today. But it's part of her story, and it made her who she is, so I'm going to include it. Ma Rainey's portrayals of black female sexuality on her own terms actually inspired Alice Walker, specifically when she was writing The Color Purple. S. Diane Bogus wrote a monograph called Play Aunties and Dyke Bitches, looking at gender, generation, and the ethics of black queer kinship. And in that, she aligned Ma Rainey with the legacy of the term Black Bulldagger. Now, this is by modern terms derogatory, but at the time, what she was describing is what we would call a stud, butch, or diesel dyke today. The term dyke, a reclaimed slur many lesbians identify with today, actually comes from the word bulldyke, which came from the term bulldagger and was a nickname for the term. So bulldagger was an intersectional response to homophobia, racism, and sexism. Bogus describes the bulldagger as the predecessor to today's black lesbian. She is both a folk myth and a genuine article. She has been a transvestite, bisexual, and always an identifiable lover of women. We've seen her and we've not seen her. We've heard about her and we've whispered about her. The Black Bulldagger has been what our girlhoods have abhorred. We the ribbons, she the hat. We the dolls, she the jack. We the prom, she the bar. We the wife, mistress, girlfriend. She, herself's own counsel and chief, the equal of men. Now this and many other important works can be found in Mouths of Rain, an anthology of black lesbian thought. Now this anthology is a groundbreaking collection of intellectual thought by black lesbian writers throughout history. So if you're interested in the preservation of queer history, I'd strongly recommend you getting your hands on this book. I'll try and link it below. So Ma Rainey was perceived as unmistakably masc presenting, and yet she wore ostrich feathers when performing. She liked to cross-dress, and for her, wearing feminine clothes was cross-dressing. Born in Columbus, Georgia in 1886, Rainey was a vibrant performer and one of the earliest professional blues singers, styled with the moniker Mother of the Blues. She was a free spirit and began performing as part of a traveling minstrel show in her early teens. She was just 18 when she married comedian, dancer, and vocalist Will Rainey in 1904. The newlyweds began touring as Ma and Pa Rainey, the assassinators of the blues, and Gertrude, her real name, would be known from here on out as Ma Rainey. Rainey was first exposed to the blues while traveling through the minstrel circuit in the South. She adopted the style as her own, singing it with her rough and powerful voice, but polished it enough to appeal to wider audiences. Her stage performance involved her stepping out of a giant gramophone in a flashy sequin dress. Her act was so popular, Paramount Records approached her with a record deal, making her one of the earliest recorded blues singers. Now, the blues were always meant to be a little risqué, which might explain how she got away with her openly lesbian lyrics, which we're about to get into. Ma Rainey's lyrical content directly referenced her own lesbian and bisexual experiences. Nearly all her music was explicit. She sang about sexual encounters, her experience as a sex worker, and her comfort in her sexual identity. Now, the lyrics were crystal clear, no ambiguity, so let's get into it. The best known example is Prove It On Me, and my God, what a story. Rainey wrote this tune after a scandalous night in 1925, in which police raided her home in Harlem. She was hosting an all-female party that had turned into a full-blown orgy with the women from her chorus. Scandalous. Rainey was arrested for this, and in true bad boy style, she was bailed out the very next morning by Bessie Smith, her protege, who was bisexual, and her lover. Rainey then wrote these lyrics. They said I do it. Ain't nobody caught me. Sure got to prove it on me. Went out last night with a crowd of my friends. They must have been women, cause I don't like no men. Now, in case the listener didn't get it the first time, she makes it crystal clear. Where she went, I don't know. I mean to follow her everywhere she goes. Folks say I'm crooked. I didn't know where she took it. I want the whole world to know. She then cements this clarity by describing her dress sense. It's true I wear a collar and tie, makes the wind blow all the while. Wear my clothes just like a fan. Talk to the girls just like any old man. This song became a lesbian anthem. And the night of this incident was so iconic, it was talked about widely and was even referenced in a promo ad for the official single Prove It On Me, where Rainey is seen flirting and mingling with women while wearing a suit inspired by menswear right in front of a cop looking suspiciously in the shadows. This is remarkable not only for the openness, but for her blatant middle finger to the law. because despite the sexual liberty of the 20s, queer sexuality was still taboo and was heavily policed, so violence from law enforcement was a constant threat. Now, according to Angela Y. Davis, yup, the activist, Prove It On Me is a cultural precursor to the lesbian liberation movement of the 1970s, which began to crystallize around the recording of lesbian-affirming songs. More references to Rainey's lesbian nature can be found in the lyrics to Shave 'Em Dry, the title itself being a reference to passionate, aggressive sex. Here's one thing I don't understand: why a good-looking woman likes a working man. Hey, 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 let me shave 'em dry. In the same song, she describes a woman dressed in men's brogan shoes, the kind of footwear that wouldn't be worn by any woman in the 1920s America unless she was cross-dressing or gay. Going downtown to spread the news, State Street women wearing brogan shoes. During the assassinator's years with her husband, Rainey would meet and go on to mentor Bessie Smith, a young singer who would herself go on to be a blues icon. Just like Rainey, Bessie became known for her bold lyrics, and the pair would tour together between 1913 and 1916. Ma and Pa Rainey separated in 1916. He knew about the affair with Bessie Smith and other women, and subsequently was unfaithful himself. In Boll Weevil Blues, she sang, "I don't want no man to put sugar in my tea," the implication that she'd prefer a woman to do it instead. Sugar and tea could also be taken as a euphemism, as we use it to describe someone as not my cup of tea. But Rainey also endured abuse from men, as she sings further down, "I don't want no man to put sugar in my tea. Some of them are so evil, I'm afraid they might poison me." Now with this, she was referencing, as she often did, the abusive men she encountered throughout her life, as she explored her boundaries with bisexuality and sex work. Ma Rainey would go on tour with her own troupe, and she became friends with numerous New Orleans jazz musicians, including Louis Armstrong, Kid Ory, and King Silver. She also went on to tour with them and did collaborations. Rainey moved to Chicago, where she continued to record for Paramount until 1928, when they cancelled her contract because they felt her style of blues was no longer on trend. So, never one to be stopped, Rainey went back to live performance, touring the country and doing private parties until 1935, when she retired from singing completely. Eventually, when the blues began to lose popularity, she returned to her hometown in Columbus, Georgia. There, she owned and ran 2 successful theaters until her death. She died of a heart attack in 1939. So not only did she live on her own terms, but she died on her own terms as well. What a legend. Ma Rainey, we salute you. Like and follow for more.